Hi everyone, Darren from DrayTek Australia and New Zealand. Continuing on from our webinar series covering different features in DrayOS 5 routers, today we'll be looking at another standout feature, and that is the advanced VPN capabilities. With more people working remotely, having a secure and reliable connection to your office network is essential. The VPN 2136 and VPN C510 5G routers are equipped with powerful VPN functionality, ensuring your sensitive data is protected while providing seamless access to your network from anywhere. First up, DrayOS 5 has support for multiple VPN protocols, allowing flexibility to choose the best option that fits your security and performance needs. Secondly, one of the most impressive features is the ability to handle multiple VPN connections simultaneously. Whether you have employees connecting from different locations or several branch offices, the VPN 2136 and VPN C510 can manage it all without breaking a sweat. In this webinar, we'll look at the topics shown here, which are: what is a VPN, VPN features, site-to-site VPN, Teleworker VPN, and some VPN tools, that is VPN status, backup, and restore. Before we get into it, let's quickly look at what a VPN is. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it's a secure way for computers in different locations to communicate with each other across the internet as if they are on the same local area network, except without cables or Wi-Fi links joining them together. It's all done over the internet, which isn't exactly a safe place, so there are various security measures available, such as encryption methods and protocols to keep prying eyes and would-be cyber criminals out. A VPN tunnel is the term used to describe the connection between your computer and the VPN server or servers. It's essentially a communication channel which protects data being transmitted within it from being accessed by anyone else. An analogy is a road tunnel for cars, where the concrete tunnel itself protects the cars driving through it from the water or earth above from crashing down. Many businesses rely on VPNs to give employees and partners secure access to company resources when they're working away from the office. I use one myself. Even though I'm based in Brisbane, I can access shared drives hosted in the Sydney office, and my IP phone is linked to the Sydney switchboard. That means I can transfer calls back and forth or dial colleagues directly on their extensions as if I were on site. More recently, many organisations have turned to VPNs to support outsourcing, helping reduce staffing costs without compromising data security. This arrangement can also be appealing for workers. Avoiding the daily commute not only saves hours of travel time, but also cuts down on fuel, parking, or transport expenses. That said, it's vital to remember that VPNs must be properly secured. A data breach can result in heavy fines, compensation payouts, and long-term damage to an organisation's reputation. One of the more common personal uses of VPNs these days, and one that many people might be more familiar with, is to bypass geo-blocks or for privacy on the internet. But before choosing a provider or plan, it's worth doing your homework. Streaming platforms like Netflix actively monitor and block traffic from known VPN IP addresses, constantly updating their systems to detect and restrict access. Now that we know what a VPN is, let's look at the VPN features in DrayOS 5 routers. These routers support several VPN protocols, providing flexibility that lets you choose the best option to fit your security and performance needs. This includes IPsec, WireGuard, and OpenVPN. In addition, DrayTek has now added EasyVPN, a new method that simplifies establishing a dial-up VPN tunnel for remote users, which I'll go through shortly. Note that PBTP and SSL VPN types are not supported in DrayOS 5 due to security vulnerabilities and outdated protocols. Also, with the latest firmware, up to 16 simultaneous VPN tunnels are supported on these routers. Note that DrayOS 5 routers have a different menu layout when compared to DrayOS 4 routers, such as the VPN 2865 and VPN 2927, which we've touched on in previous videos. Going to the VPN General Setup menu page, the menu options are arranged horizontally. Here you can enable the VPN types, including the ones mentioned earlier, which are EasyVPN, IPsec, WireGuard, and OpenVPN. You can also specify which interfaces on the router will accept VPN connections. Under the Access Control tab, VPN connections can be accepted on a specified interface. In this screenshot, the router is configured to only accept VPN connections originating from WAN 1, and all VPN protocols have been allowed. For the VPN access control mode setting, you can set certain IP addresses to be whitelisted, an allow list, or blacklisted, a block list. By default, all VPNs are disabled, including EasyVPN. Therefore, it has to be enabled to use it. Okay, so what is EasyVPN? EasyVPN is a feature introduced by DrayTek to simplify the VPN connection process for teleworkers. By teleworkers, we mean any remote user that connects into the main network using a single device. EasyVPN allows users to connect to a VPN with minimal setup by simply entering a username and password or using a one-time password, OTP, sent via email. This eliminates the need for advanced configuration for users, such as generating WireGuard keys or importing OpenVPN files, which can be challenging for general users. Additionally, EasyVPN enhances reliability by automatically switching to the next available VPN protocol if one fails, ensuring a more seamless connection experience. Currently, EasyVPN is supported on the Vigor 2136, C510 and C410 models with firmware version 5.3.1. It'll also be available in the Vigor 2962, 3910 and 3912 routers running firmware version 4.4.5. The Smart VPN client and EasyVPN client are available across major platforms, including Windows, macOS, iOS, Android and Linux. Here's a quick overview of the VPN types supported by each platform. As you can see, protocols like IPsec, IKEv2, EAP, WireGuard and OpenVPN are widely supported. This allows for flexible and secure connections across different devices, all made easier through the EasyVPN feature. The EasyVPN listen port can use the HTTPS WAN access port. However, as noted on the menu page, if HTTPS IPv4 WAN access is disabled or restricted by an access control list, you'll need to use a custom port. For the VPN type preference, you can simply drag and drop to rearrange the preference order of your preferred VPN protocols. The top VPN has the highest priority. For example, if the user prefers to use OpenVPN, then simply drag it to the top. I'll go through a configuration example shortly. For IPsec, there aren't many changes in DrayOS 5. You still have the option to select certificates and specify the preferred local ID for the VPN connection. However, one important change is that there is no confirmation field for the pre-shared key when setting up a general site-to-site PSK or XAuth or user PSK. This means you won't be prompted to re-enter the PSK to confirm it. To avoid connection issues, make sure you double-check your PSK by using the eye icon to reveal it before saving. For a WireGuard VPN setup, this page allows customizing the listen port and generating the private and public keys. To generate a private key, click the Generate button. The system will automatically create the private key and the corresponding public key will also be displayed. On this page, you can configure the OpenVPN server settings, upload an existing certificate, or generate router certificates directly. There are no major changes in this section compared to DrayOS 4, so if you're already familiar with setting up an OpenVPN in DrayOS 4, you'll be able to do it just as easily in DrayOS 5. Now let's look at setting up a site-to-site VPN, otherwise known as a LAN-to-LAN VPN tunnel. All of the VPN options are found under VPN in the left-hand menu in DrayOS 5. Under General Setup, the Access Control tab allows specifying which interfaces can accept VPN connections. All interfaces, you can either allow all connections or you can have an allow or block list. Specified interface means just that. Clicking +add allows selecting the WAN interface and allowed protocols. Click Apply to save. The EasyVPN tab is where EasyVPN is enabled if you're going to use that. We'll come back to these other options later. Likewise, IPsec needs to be enabled under the IPsec tab if you're going to use that. Same for WireGuard and OpenVPN under their tabs. And the VPN MSS tab allows altering the maximum TCP segment size if you're having problems with fragmented packets. To set up a site-to-site VPN, select that from the left-hand menu, then simply click the +Add button to create a new profile. Enter a profile name and make sure it's enabled. Select the direction of the VPN, whether dialing out to another router or dialing into this router from another one. Then select the VPN type. We'll run with IPsec, which we enabled earlier under the general setup. Then select the IPsec dial-out protocol, either IKEv1, IKEv2, or IKEv2 EAP and XAuth. Then we need the remote IP or domain of the router we're connecting to. Dial-out mode can be on demand, always on, or to a schedule. For scheduled, we can also force it to drop the connection outside of the scheduled times. If advanced mode up here is enabled, we get some more options. You can choose which WAN interface the VPN should dial out from. However, this option is not available when the VPN direction is set to dial in. Dial out interface mode allows an order of preference, while dial out interface is the preferred WAN to use. That can be auto-select or a specified WAN, and you can specify the second preference if there's a problem with the preferred one. You can also configure the idle timeout setting. For example, if you want the VPN to automatically disconnect after 5 minutes of inactivity, simply set the idle timeout to 300 seconds, 0 for always on. Next is a section where you configure IKE authentication for both dial-in and dial-out VPN settings. Here we see two negotiation modes, main mode and aggressive mode. The difference is, main mode is ideal when both routers have static IPs, as it provides better security by protecting identity information during the negotiation. Aggressive mode is recommended when the VPN client has a dynamic public IP address or is behind NAT, as it's more flexible and can establish a connection more easily in these scenarios, though with slightly less identity protection. Authentication can be a pre-shared key or a certificate, and you can also specify a local ID and a peer ID. Under More Settings, there are additional settings available, such as IKE Phase 1, IKE Phase 2, and Dead Peer Detection, or DPD. For most LAN-to-LAN VPNs between DrayTek routers, the default settings usually work without any changes. However, when connecting a DrayTek router to a third-party router or services like AWS, you may need to adjust the IKE phase settings to ensure both sides match. This helps establish a successful and stable VPN connection. Under the Network section, you can enter the local network and remote network details for the VPN connection. GRE over IPsec will possibly come into play in the future, but at the moment isn't used. Down here you can specify the routing or NAT mode, depending on how you want traffic to be handled between the two networks. If there are additional remote subnets that need to be accessed through the VPN, they can also be added below the main network settings by selecting multiple SAs. And here you can enter those other networks. Then click Apply to save. And there's our newly created site-to-site VPN. Now let's look at the Teleworker VPN feature in DrayOS 5 routers. This was known as dial-in VPN in DrayOS 4 routers. For a remote dial-in VPN, select Teleworker VPN from the left-hand menu. Here you can create dial-in user profiles, just like you would on a DrayOS 4 router. To begin, simply click the +Add button to start configuring a new dial-in user. Right next to it, there's also an OpenVPN configuration file generator. This tool makes it easy to generate and download the required OpenVPN config file for the user to connect quickly and securely. The OpenVPN config generator allows users to easily set up the required client details. Once configured, the OpenVPN profile can be exported via email or downloaded locally for manual installation on the client device. So, back to setting up a dial-in user profile. Click on +Add. First, select a username. Then choose the usage type. There are two options: IAM user, that grants access for VPN radius 802.1x, USB and IAM authentication, but doesn't allow router management. And router management, which allows access to manage the router, but disables VPN radius 802.1x, USB and IAM authentication. Which one depends on whether the user needs to manage the router or authenticate for services like VPN. Then enter a password for the user. Next, you can configure the user status, either active or inactive. Apply a group policy if one has been predefined, and set an expiration time for the user profile, which can either be never, or at a certain time, or after a certain time. The router also supports sending notifications to the user's email or via SMS when the profile is created. For enhanced security, you can enable multi-factor authentication, MFA. Available methods include TOTP, time-based one-time password, email, SMS, MOTP, that's mobile one-time password. At the bottom of the page, you'll also find information on the user profile's creation time, as well as the last login IP address and timestamp. Back up the top, under the Teleworker VPN tab, you can enable or disable Teleworker VPN access, configure the idle timeout, and even schedule VPN availability for specific users if required. There's also a link provided to download the Smart VPN client from the DrayTek Taiwan website. In case you're not familiar, the Smart VPN client is DrayTek's official VPN client software designed to simplify remote VPN setup and connectivity. I'll come back to this shortly with more detail. Next, you can specify which VPN protocols are allowed for the user. As mentioned earlier, PPTP and SSL VPN are no longer supported in DrayOS 5, so the available options are IPsec, OpenVPN and WireGuard. You can customize WireGuard settings such as generating the security key pairs and pre-shared keys. Next, under the security section, you can specify a VPN peer ID. This limits remote VPN access to a specific client IP, helping to prevent brute force attacks. Under local IP assignment, you have the option to assign a LAN IP to the dial-in user, either dynamically via DHCP, or assign a static IP if the user needs to be on a specific subnet or LAN. You can also configure the user to use custom DNS servers. Simply select static DNS and enter the primary and secondary DNS addresses. Once done, click Apply to save the profile. Let's now go through a configuration example for EasyVPN in a DrayOS 5 router. So back up to VPN General Setup. We went through General Setup earlier, but I'll go through it again in a little more detail as it applies to EasyVPN. Go to the EasyVPN tab and enable it. You can set the listening port using the HTTPS WAN port, port 443, or you can customize it. You'll also need to enable the WAN HTTPS port under the Management tab, which I'll come back to in a moment. Down here is the VPN type preference, where you can decide which one to try first, and you can change the order by just dragging and dropping them. For example, if you want WireGuard as the preferred VPN type, just drag that to the top. The top of the list is the most preferred protocol, while the bottom is the least preferred. You'll also need to enable IPsec, WireGuard and OpenVPN, since EasyVPN can use all of them. For IPsec, you'll need to select a certificate for the dial-in connection, or just use the default. For WireGuard, you'll need to generate a private key pair. And for OpenVPN, you can select from existing certificates, or let the router generate them. To create the dial-in user profile, EasyVPN is also a Teleworker VPN, so go to VPN Teleworker VPN. Then click on plus add. Enter a username, we'll just use EasyVPN in this example, and set a password. Set the status to active. You can also enable email and SMS settings for OTP authentication if needed. Then click on the Teleworker VPN tab here, enable it, then alter the idle timeout and VPN schedule as needed. Enable the IPsec, OpenVPN and WireGuard VPN protocols for this profile. For WireGuard, generate a key pair and a pre-shared key. You can also define the VPN peer, which includes the remote client IP, pre-shared key, and X.509 digital certificate. For WireGuard as well, you'll need to assign a static IP address to the VPN profile. For example, let's assign IP from LAN 1 and enter 192.168.1.244. You can also specify a static DNS for the dial-in connection, then click Apply to save. As mentioned before, we also need to enable HTTPS access on the WAN interface. To do that, go to System Maintenance Management and enable IPv4 WAN access for HTTPS port 443, then click Apply. The remote user will need to download the Smart VPN client, which is available from our website, or you can go back to the EasyVPN profile and click the Teleworker VPN tab again. And you'll find a link here as well, which will take you to the DrayTek HQ website, where you can also download it. The Windows version is a direct download. The links here for macOS and iOS and Android will take you to the Apple App Store and Google Play Store respectively. On our website at draytek.com.au, you'll find it on the Support Downloads page under the Utilities section. EasyVPN is supported in the Windows Smart VPN client from version 5.7.0. To configure the dial-in profile, click on Profiles, then Add. Give it a name. For type, select EasyVPN Auto Mode. Then enter the router's public WAN IP address and HTTPS port, which we've left at the default 443. Then we need to enter the username and password. Then click OK to save the profile. To connect, select the active profile we just created, EasyVPN, then click Connect. Enter the password again and click OK. Once connected, you'll see the VPN protocol in use down the bottom here, which is WireGuard in this case, since that's what we chose as the top preferred VPN on the router. Back to the router, you can check the dial-in VPN status under VPN connection status, Teleworkers VPN. That includes a bunch of statistics, and you can also drop the VPN if needed. Okay. For our final topic, we'll look at the VPN status, backup and restore features. Let's check it out. So you'll find both options towards the bottom of the VPN menu. Let's first take a look at the VPN connection status menu. In the first tab is the active site-to-site VPN connections. Next tab is the active Teleworkers VPN, that's dial-in VPN. The Connection History tab provides a summary of VPN activity, showing the total number of Teleworker and site-to-site VPN connections over the last 2 or 24 hours, along with total upload and download data usage. It also displays a list of the most recent connections. Similarly, under failed VPN connection attempts, you can see any problems over the last 2 hours or the last 24 hours, which is useful for troubleshooting and identifying potential threats. The logs here will show the external IP addresses that attempted to connect. If an IP address is not recognized by the system administrator, it can be manually blocked using a firewall rule to enhance network security. The last tab is Brute Force Protection, which displays details about blocked external IP addresses. It shows the start and end time of the block, the user profile associated with the login attempt, and the hit count, which indicates how many times that IP has attempted to connect. This feature helps administrators monitor repeated unauthorized login attempts and take appropriate action to secure the network. The final item under the VPN menu is the Backup and Restore feature. That allows you to back up the VPN configurations, including general settings, or site-to-site VPN profiles, or Teleworker VPN profiles, or all of them by clicking Select All. Backups can also be password protected for added security. If you already have a saved configuration, it can be restored from the same page. Just be aware that backups created on DrayOS 4 cannot be restored on DrayOS 5 due to system architecture differences. Okay. So this is the end of today's session. In summary, we began by looking at what a VPN is and the VPN features in DrayOS 5 routers, such as the Vigor 2136 and Vigor C510. We then looked at setting up site-to-site VPN tunnels, followed by Teleworker VPNs, and went through a configuration example on how to use EasyVPN and easily set up a Teleworker VPN. Then finally, we looked at some VPN tools that are available in the router, which include VPN connection status and the backup and restore function. Okay, that's all for me, but please stay tuned. We'll be answering questions in the live chat on the right of your screen for the next 5 minutes. For more information about DrayTek products, please check out our website at www.draytek.com.au or send us an email to sales@draytek.com.au or give us a call on 02 9838 8899. Please like and subscribe below, and if you'd like a notification anytime we put up a new video, please select all from the subscribe drop-down menu as well. Thanks and bye for now.